Welcome to the 154th broadcast of the T-Row Show. It's your host, Keith. You got John with me.
Good morning, folks.
All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to hopefully open up some eyes because we've been talking about the Communist Party here for a while. And some people are starting to finally take this seriously, which is good. We've been hearing reports back from people that are listening to it, especially the last two T-Row shows. And we're showing you we're not kidding. We're not playing around. If you think communism might be a good thing, I'm going to just read to you. It's a long read. It may take me 20 minutes, half hour or so, maybe 40 minutes to read it. But you're going to know exactly what it's like to be in a communist country. Okay, this is where people like Schiff and Pelosi and Clinton and all those people are trying to get you to go to. This is why the left is so upset. They were going directly to communism. They had everything in place to get you there, and to lie to the rest of the world that you had agreed to it. We found, I don't know, probably at least 5 or 6 areas where they're claiming that because you claim USA, it's called the Communist Party USA. So when you're chanting USA, the communists are telling people overseas that you're chanting for the Communist Party by chanting USA. We've got now there's evidence of voter fraud. I mean, clear evidence of voter fraud. Votes being stolen, crap like that that's going on by the Communist Party USA. So we're telling you now, y'all better get ready because they're moving fast, and they're moving as fast as they possibly can. So you might want to get moving here. Okay, so sit back, get your night tea out. We'll go ahead and read to you today. It's a joke, by the way. The article below was written by Zuzana Janosova Den Boer, okay? Boer, who experienced communist rule in Czechoslovakia before coming to Canada. She said, having recognized all too familiar signs of the same propaganda in my adopted country of Canada, I felt obligated to write this article below. I survived communism. Are you ready for your turn? Because I do not want my adopted country to suffer the same fate as the country from which I immigrated, Czechoslovakia. Her warning is something that all Canadians need to see. That's why I'm sharing her article in full in spencerfernando.com, and I encourage you to share it. This is a long article, and I know people aren't going to read it, so that's why I'm reading it on T-Row. So you can just sit back and listen. Now listen to this. Okay, it was scientifically proven that communism is the only social economic system provided the masses with justice and equality. 100% of the scientists agree on this. The topic is not up for debate. So proclaimed my professor during one of his lectures on the subject scientific communism, while the country of Czechoslovakia was still under communist control. I was reminded of his blustery pronouncement of the first time I encountered this spurious claim that a consensus of 97% scientists agree global warming is man-made. Most people don't question scientific statements because they think they are facts. They do not understand that scientific statements must always be challenged because science is not about consensus. Ideology is. In March of 2007, the website WorldNet Daily published an article entitled "Environmentalism is New Communism." In it, a former Czech president, Klaus, stated, "It becomes evident that while discussing climate, we are not witnessing a clash of views about the environment, but a clash of views about human freedom." He goes on to describe environmentalism as the biggest threat to freedom, democracy, and the world economy and prosperity. Klaus has also written a book, Blue Planet and Green Shackles, in which he states communism and environmentalism have the same roots. They both suppress freedom. He also warns that any brand of environmentalism calling for a centralized planning of the economy under a slogan of protecting nature is nothing less than reincarnation of communism, new communism. Claus understands communist propaganda very well. He should. Most of us who lived and suffered under communism can instantly recognize any signs of communist ideology, no matter how slight or subtle. Since I received my own vaccination of communist propaganda during the first 27 years of my life, I too am immune to this disease. If someone is trying to save me against my will, I'm instantly wary and ready to fight back. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So try to imagine how I feel now as a Canadian when I see the same tactics and hear the same phrases I saw and heard for years under communism, only this time in English. If you think I'm paranoid or that communism in North America is far-fetched, then good luck to you. I hope you enjoy what's coming your way. You, North Americans, are so gullible, so you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you will finally wake up and find you already have communism. This is what we meant, folks. Your driver's license, Communist Party. You already have it. We won't have to fight you. We'll so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands. This was Khrushchev in 1960. Communism can be characterized by a single word: deception. Communists never disclose their real intentions. They are fraudsters who employ different identities, names, and slogans, all for one goal: totalitarian enslavement. Since the 1970s, the goal of Communist Party USA, see that is right there, Communist Party USA. So when you're yelling USA, you're chanting that. Oh, that's what do you think the communists are doing? Has been to subvert environmentalism and use it to advance their agenda. In 1972, Gus Hall, then chairman of the Communist Party USA, stipulated in his book Ecology, human society cannot basically stop the destruction of the environment under capitalism. Socialism is the only structure that makes it possible. This is true in the struggle to save the environment. We must be the organizers, leaders of these movements. What is new is that knowledge of a point of no return gives this struggle an unusual urgency. This idea was incorporated into the U.S. Green Party program in 1989, the same year Soviet communism collapsed, in which the fictitious threats of global warming and climate change are used to scare the public into believing humanity must save the planet. This urgency, along with other green issues and themes, and it interrelates, makes confronting the greenhouse effect a powerful organizing tool. Survival is highly motivating and may help us build this mass movement. It will lead to large-scale political and societal change in a very short time. First of all, we must inform the public that the crisis is more immediate than severe than they are being told, that its implications are too great to wait for the universal scientific confirmation that only catastrophe would establish. Do you think the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is promoting science rather than socialism? Read the following admission from the co-chair of UNIPCC, Working Group 3, during an interview in 2010 with the Swiss newspaper. We must free ourselves from the illusion that international climate policy is environmental policy. We must state clearly that we use climate policy de facto to redistribute the world's wealth. Now, do I have your attention? Let me describe to you how communist propaganda and mythology work. There are three main stages: polarization, that's KGB term, which is demoralization, destabilization, and revolution. Okay, so right now they're in stage one, polarization, divide and conquer. They have the left and the right, and they have the Republicans and the Democrats. So they've divided. In order to win power, communists first polarize their target society. The notion of injustice is introduced. One group of people, poor workers, are made to feel victimized by the second group, to the point that they demand civil discourse. Who are these people that supposedly victimize poor workers? Here's a clue. Communists don't care about poor people. They just hate rich ones. That's George Orwell. The one thing a communist cannot abide is a wealthy person. For communists, the rich are owners of private businesses, especially successful ones. They are loathed and demonized as heartless, spiteful monsters who exploit their employees and don't care about their welfare. The rich are public enemy number one. They don't care about people or the environment. They care only for profit and wealth. Dare to disagree, then you are a denier and an imperialist traitor. And after completion of stage 3, you will be physically liquidated. Keep that in mind. We must hate. Hatred is the basis of communism. Children must be taught to hate their parents if they are not communists. During the first stage, communists focus on altruistic people. People with big hearts, full of good intentions, who believe in doing good for goodness sake. Why? Because idealistic people are usually naive and easy to manipulate, especially via their emotions. Recognizing how essential these people are to the success of his revolution, Lenin referred to them as useful idiots. Destabilization. During the second stage, the basic values of society are targeted for change. This always starts with education. Give me your child for 8 years, and he or she will be a communist forever. That's Lenin. Communism always uses teachers and education system to impose its ideology and promote its values through indoctrination. My own indoctrination started in elementary school. In grade 4, we all had to become young pioneers. From that day, we were taught about the imminent danger posed by capitalistic countries. The curriculum in schools gradually but firmly established admiration for communism and loyalty to the Communist Party. We were constantly reminded of how we live in the best political system in the world, in the country with the best social and justice and equality. Our teachers participated in the process, either voluntarily or involuntarily. I remember teachers who actively reinforced communist indoctrination in schools. They exploited a child's emotional immaturity, lack of experience and knowledge, vulnerability to impose their communist ideas, beliefs, and values. They took advantage of their position of authority, of the natural trust that children place in teachers, to brainwash a young and vulnerable generation, to train the next generation of communists. Scaremongering was a favorite tactic. That happens all the time in this country right now. Embrace communism, fear capitalism. Otherwise, your country will be overtaken by imperialists, and you will be exploited. Who is not with us is against us. Yeah, didn't that what George Bush Jr. said? If you're not for us, you're against us. They just set up communism. If you think it can't happen in Canada, then I have news for you. It's been happening for some time in both Canada and the US. The environmental cause was targeted years ago by communists as a catalyst for promoting socialism and paving a way for communism. The new communism is based on the old communist ideological principles and beliefs, but uses environmentalism as its agent of change to completely alter the core values of Western democracy and destabilize demoralized society. As illustrated by the following excerpt of Captain Eco, written by Jonathan Ellis, published in 1991, children are being indoctrinated in our schools, being made to believe that that it's their responsibility to save the planet. That's true, by the way. And I've seen children that say that they have to wear shoes because their feet are hurting the earth. That's sick, man. That's some sick stuff. You think your feet came from? It came from the earth. It says your planet is in serious trouble from pollution, toxic waste, and the loss of forest, farmland, and fresh water. Your parents and grandparents have made a mess of looking after the earth. They may deny it, but they are a little more than thieves, and they are stealing your future from under your noses. Now, see more examples. In May 2012, grade 3 class took to the streets of Toronto with signs to protest the construction of the Northern Gateway Pipeline. The protest was organized by their teacher and local community volunteer. Pure Marxist method. Just like these kids who marched in protest to save the planet, we too were made by our teachers to march with banners and signs to save our country from imperialists. In 2011, Quebec, 6-year-old boy was disqualified from teddy bear contest because Ziploc was found in his lunch instead of reusable container. How did this boy feel after being ostracized and excluded from his peers? Maybe he felt punished for his parents' actions. And what was the next step? Encourage children to report their own parents who use Ziplocs instead of reusable containers. Denunciation of common practice during communism. April 2018, Edmonton father went to elementary school to see his grade 4 daughters play in the play. The children sabotaged a factory in the name of climate change. They went on to save Alberta from its evil oil industry and greedy oil barons. Textbook communist methodology, demonizing the private sector oil industry by representing them as greedy oil barons. In some university lecture halls, professors are also trying to indoctrinate the new upcoming proletariat. Okay, every time I see elite university students protesting capitalism and advocating socialism, I wonder if they realize that if they succeed, it will be their very last protest. In an interview recorded in 1984, a KGB defector described the consequences of ideological subversion, indoctrination. Here's a short excerpt. The person who is demoralized, indoctrinated, is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him a concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he receives a kick in his fat bottom. Okay, on Useful Idiots, the true face of communism. Here's a YouTube if you want to see it. The children currently attending our elementary schools will vote in 10 to 12 years. How many of these children are have already been brainwashed into believing that in order to save the planet, they must vote for a government that will stop destroying the planet by eliminating private ownership and taking control of production? By eliminating private ownership, they're already, right now, regulating your private property. Later on, they're going to eliminate it completely. It all belong to the state. The philosophy of classroom in one generation will take the philosophy of government in the next. If you believe warm, cuddly socialism leads to utopian communism, in which equality, this is Abraham Lincoln, and social justice prevail, then allow me to impart some insights about the social justice delivered to us by communists. You deserve to know a little about the substance in which you will have to swim before you dive into the cesspool called communism. Now, listen to this carefully. After gaining the support of the majority, communists call for the democratic election. If they win it, they seize power and abolish democratic elections altogether. At this point, members of opposition parties, along with all other opponents deemed to be a potential threat, are physically liquidated. In case you aren't familiar with this quaint communist phrase, it means executed. And we've told people a million times, they're going to kill your ass. Okay? Private businesses are immediately seized and confiscated, nationalized. That means you don't own your own business, folks. You don't have your own business. That's all owned by the government now. Key supporters who now realize they have been manipulated and exploited. Useful idiots who are no longer useful, either jailed or executed, to prevent the formation of any dissident movements. All other useful idiots, having fulfilled their purpose of bringing communists to power, are now either enslaved into a new ideology or disposed of in a variety of prescribed ways. The new privileged elite of Communist Party leaders is now formed. Now you understand what they mean by elite. When they say the elite are doing it, those are communists. That's what they refer to themselves as. No hypocrisy here. After all those angry claims of exploitation by a privileged elite, what's the first thing communists do once they gain power? Leaders of every key institution or organization, company, hospital, police, school, etc., are now replaced by an official member of the Communist Party. Competence, ability, or fitness for the job is no longer relevant or required. The only prerequisite is loyalty to the party. Okay, do you think communism failed because of oppression? No, you can brainwash and threaten people, keep them dangling like puppets until the supply of goods starts to disappear. Economic reality always prevails. The problem with socialism is that you eventually run out of other people's money. So the economic consequences of communism are always the same: poverty. And this one comes with ironclad guarantee, a lifetime warranty. People always spend their own money more carefully than someone else's. Capitalism is about efficiency. Private businesses must spend their capital very carefully. They cannot afford to make investments in their businesses unless they are sure it will be worth it. A mistake could result in an increased price for their product, reduced cash flow, loss of competitiveness, eventual bankruptcy. In a centrally planned economy, all production is controlled by government. The revenue required to operate the government and the economy is obtained through taxation, because a centrally planned economy is not subject to the laws of supply and demand. Financial goals become meaningless since there are no penalties for not achieving them. Thus, long-term government plans are never fulfilled and financial goals are replaced by imaginary production quotas. The result is proliferate waste and inefficiency on a monumental scale. Communism institutes mandatory employment with predetermined duties and salaries. The problem is lack of goods and services. Even if you have money, you will have few opportunities to spend it for your own benefit. Both socialism and communism believe in the abolishment of private business. Economic resources may be publicly owned, but they are controlled by government. Y'all get what that means, folks? You're listening to this. No more private businesses are owned. It's all owned by government. Okay? But they are controlled by government. Communism is implemented in two stages. During the first stage, socialism, wealth is distributed to people according to their productivity. During the second stage, communism, wealth is distributed according to individual need, but it is the government who decides who those needs are and if they even matter, not the individual. Remember the key word, deception. Socialism equals communism. Any political party or organization that advocates socialism is advocating communism. If you think socialism cares about democracy or freedom, then reread stage 3, revolution. Life under communism. All right. What is life under communism like? It says in Eastern Bloc countries, shortages of basic goods began in the 1980s. People had to get up at 3 a.m. in order to stand in line for basic needs: bread, milk, meat, eggs, toilet paper, oil, etc. Okay? You could stand in line for hours and not even get a chance to buy something once products ran out. Other appealing aspects. Okay? Want an apartment? You can buy one. You can't buy one. Real estate markets don't exist. You probably get one eventually for free, but the government will decide the size, type, location, as well as your position in the queue, which may take years. Want a car? You must first submit an application or buy a permit, or buy a car from the government, then wait in line for years. The wait time might be 2 to 3 years, or it could be as long as 7 to 10 years. Want to use some recreational facilities, government built, of course. For vacation, you need to be approved by a labor union and wait. Want daycare for your child? Submit an application and wait. Want garage for your car? Submit an application and wait. I submitted an application for a garage in 1988. When I left Slovakia in 1997, I still had not received a response. Sound idyllic? But here's the best part. There's no guarantee that you will ever receive an apartment, car, garage, daycare, recreation, or anything else you might want. If there is any record ever of your non-compliance with communist ideology, you will receive nothing. As one communist leader informed me, after I refused to become a member of a socialist party, forget about an apartment, forget about daycare, forget about a salary raise, forget about any benefits. Communism results in the poverty of an entire society. By comparison, free market capitalism has lifted the highest number of people out of poverty in human history. Now, corruption. Because of lack of goods and services, corruption and bribery become epidemic under communism. Of course, corruption also exists in capitalist countries, but communism elevates it to a completely different systematic level. It's not what you know, but who you know. To function in order to survive, you must have a network of connections and pay bribes for everything. Education may be for free, but there's no guarantee you'll ever get into your desired school's program, even if you have top marks. The state might have different plans for you or for your child, but with good connections and a timely delivery of a valuable gift to the school principal or party leader, anything is possible. Healthcare may be for free, but if you want your doctor to be sober for your surgery, better pay up. Paying bribes to doctors in cash or gold was common in the Eastern Bloc. It was even told how much I must pay by the doctor himself. Police are a special case, corrupt, enjoying their power immensely. Did you speed? Your choice is between a lesser bribe and a much more expensive ticket. No court, no argument, no place to complain. That's absolutely true. I've actually seen that. Need anything from government employees? Good luck. Communists invented stamps of different sizes and shapes. To get your document or permit stamped, you must pay a bribe. Wants a new book, new clothes, or a better piece of meat? Better know a saleswoman, and be really nice to her. Your car has broken down and needs repair? Oh dear. Now you're in real trouble. Leaving a car in a repair shop entails the risk of good functioning components of your car being secretly replaced by inferior or non-functioning ones. The good components will be sold or exchanged for other goods. This is how exchange markets work under communism. Due to lack of goods, everyone steals. We used to say, who is not stealing from the state is robbing his own family. Without connections, you remain in a queue for a very long time. And finally, here's a truly delicious irony for you. Do you think communists care about the environment? I remember hills near chemical plants laid bare, denuded with vegetation of polluted air and acid rain from towns where heavy metals were produced, placed where aluminum had poisoned the groundwater. Cities where the haze from industrial smog was so thick you couldn't see through it, and it hung for months. Places where noxious compounds in the air forced residents to wear face masks. Naturally, there were environmental laws, all conveniently ignored in the name of glorious socialism. The worst part is fear of being arrested, of being tortured, of dying as a political prisoner in a prison, labor camp, or uranium mine, slow death from radiation poisoning, incarceration in an insane asylum. You have to be crazy to oppose the regime. Or of the same thing happening to someone you love. Fear is the primary tool for keeping people silent and obedient. For those who do not comply, are interrogated, tortured, intimidated, put under surveillance as MUKL, destined for liquidation by secret police, or just killed, quicker and much easier. These political prostitutes called informers are everywhere, especially universities. They'll report everything you do or say. Forget about freedom of action, speech, or even thought. The party controls everything, and you voted for them, didn't you? This is where Schiff, Clinton, Pelosi, this is where they're bringing it. This is where they're going. And this is why they're so pissed off. Because if they would have got in, we'd have been full communism right now. Okay, freedom is a fragile thing. It's never more than one generation away from extinction. Those who have known freedom, then lose it, have never known it again. How many people have been murdered in capitalist countries for not being supporters of capitalism? How many have been murdered by a capitalist state for being anti-capitalist? If we turn the questions around and ask how many have been murdered in communist countries, the answer is between 80 to 100 million globally, and that's an accurate number. They've been doing it here in America. They've just been doing it to children unborn. That's where they've gone over 60 million in just abortions alone, doing it right there under your nose, and you don't know they're communists. We are currently in the second stage destabilization of the new green communism. Are we so gullible that we can be taken without one shot, as Khrushchev predicted? Have we all taken our many freedoms for granted? Are we prepared to gullibly give up those freedoms and those advocating socialism? Or are we prepared to resist the tide of radical leftism? Socialism equals communism. And after reading this article, I hope you have no illusions about what it is, and where it leads. Canadians will soon have a chance to demonstrate if and how much they treasure their freedom. Good luck, Canada. And I say, good luck, U.S., because that's exactly where you guys are. And it's a major problem. So what I would say is this: communism was outlawed. Let's just go into the illusion right now, into the company illusion. We know it's a company. We know the U.S. is a company. We know that the real so-called city-state is the city of Washington, D.C. And we know that those three city-state empires, Washington, D.C., Vatican City, and City of London. We know the Vatican is communism or communist, and we know Italy is communist. So we can pretty much say that the other two are also. Okay? Now, if that being said, you're seeing this slowly happen over and over again. How many people in the country literally know how an impeachment process works? You might find 1% to even understand what the hell what is going on. You wouldn't have a clue whether it was being done correctly or incorrectly. The communists know this. They study politics considerably on a daily basis. They learn how this crap works, and they know how to shove it down people's throat as to what the crime that they commit. Communists never do anything right. They never serve a warrant. They never have a warrant in their hand. They'll never show up to your house with a warrant. If a cop shows up to your house without a warrant, he's a communist. You have to recognize this. If a judge asks you, how do you plead? He's in violation of court rules, and he's a communist. He's not supposed to ask you how you plead. Guilty or not guilty or whatever it is. He's never supposed to do that. What else, John? We have little signs here and there, little things that you've noticed.
The right old hand keys, it's almost too numerous to anyway, the driver's license is your communist card.
Mm-hmm. That's giving permission to drive your own car. But what they've done is that's now state property because now they're regulating it. Okay, so when the state starts regulating private property, that state has turned commie.
Yep. The state claims it, and then they rent it back to you when you buy your insurance, your tag, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. And you've been funding them for quite a while. How many socialists and communists in colleges? They're freaking riddled with it. Riddled with them.
I would say 99% of all professors in the universities and colleges are communist.
Mm-hmm.
There might be 1% that isn't, and I'm a real. I question that 1% even.
All communists are always into the Baal Peor.
Yep.
All of them into the Baal Peor. And they are all into the adrenochrome, sacrificing children, murdering people. Love to murder people. I mean, it's a pastime, man. Love murdering people. And they love tattling on the guy ahead of them or above them if they catch them doing anything, so that they'll be executed and then they can take your place. So they move up in the party by murdering each other.
Yep. And if you look at Agenda 21, Agenda 30, they got approximately 80% of the United States people will be murdered to reduce population worldwide.
Yeah, they'll say it's to reduce population, but that's just what communists do anyways.
That's right.
It's a real estate scam. They want to take your real estate. They want your money. They want your house. They want all your shit. So that's what they're doing.
Well, when they get in power, they're going to murder anybody that opposes them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care whether it's black, white, red, or blue. If you speak out against them, you just lost your head.
That's right. Now you know why, folks, they're after your guns. Now you know why they want your guns. It's so you can't stop them from murdering you. This is how it works.
Yep.
So you're just going to have to understand that you're already there. You're going to have to face the fact that, oh, well, this might happen sometime in the future. No, it's happening right now.
The future was yesterday.
Yeah. It's already happening. It's already done.
It's already done completely. Only thing they haven't done yet to make it completely communism is to get rid of Trump.
Or to get rid of the vote.
Get rid of the vote. Get rid of the opposing party.
They're still trying to get rid of Right, they're still trying to get rid of the vote. They pretty much made it an illusion under the fraud that they do in the voting. Nobody trusts it anymore, and they do that on purpose to get rid of your vote. They're trying to get you to not trust the voting system, so you stop voting.
Yep.
That's how it works. But the deep state, folks, is not what they call the deep state. They're all communists. That's who they are. They're part of the Communist Party USA. We have that on in the newspaper. On it's called, go to AmericanHeraldNewspaper.com. We have a list of all the communists there. It's another list, and I'm sure there's more. But they're all communists. So that's who the deep state is. Not Hillary, she's a communist. Pelosi, she's a communist. Schiff, he's a communist. All these people are communists. They're all part of the Communist Party. And they're trying to get in, and they just like murdering people. This is how they are. They love killing them. They just ain't happy, unless they killed somebody that day. So you got to realize we're not making this up. This is the way it is, and you know it. And really what it comes down to is you have to face it in your own heart, in your own mind. You got to deal with it. It's outlawed here, okay, in that U.S. system. It's also outlawed within the government of the United States of America and the states of the Union. So that being said, you have your perceived authority to stop it now. If the police, if the FBI, if all them fail to do their job, you can do it yourself. Meaning, you can arrest communists under that act. Everyone has that ability. Because once those people that you so-called elected fail to do their job, that responsibility falls back on you. That's called chain of title. So it automatically reverses and goes back to you. Now you've got about, I'd say you're about 2 or 3% of some form of a democracy left. You're down to that. Maybe 2 or 3%. Okay? All the movie stars are advocating for communism because they were promised high places in the Communist Party. That's how they got them to advocate for this. That all these other people have advocated or been told, you'll have a high place in the Communist Party. Just advocate for us and we'll put you through. They bought off they probably didn't even have to give money. They just promised them blue sky or position. And they'll turn in a heartbeat against you. I doubt they even wrote a check to get these people to turn. Which is the sad part. Okay, but,
Yeah, and who's going to be the first one to lose their head when the communists get in full power?
That's right, because communists don't trust traitors.
That's right. The ones that supported them, put them in, are the traitors to their own country. Therefore, they have to be eliminated.
Right, I saw an interview where Bernie Sanders was promising AOC a position if he gets put in the White House, promising her a position in a high position in the White House. That's communism, folks.
That it is.
I thought she was a congresswoman. What do you mean, promise her a high position in the White House? What do you mean, go over to the executive branch? Bernie can just pull her out of her office and put her over there? So what happened to the representative of her district? Think about it.
What happened to her actual faith?
Yeah.
She's Muslim. She can't become communism.
No, that's not. We're talking about AOC, not Ilhan Omar. She's Muslim. She's actually a militant because women can't hold office, so they reclassify them as militants.
Yep.
Okay, so remember that when it comes to that. So these people, like these women that were in colleges, I thought it was hilarious. They actually stopped protesting in college. Okay, so Muslim girls, teenagers, were advocating for their religion in a college, but under their religion, they can't go to college. So imagine that. So what happens is, in order to not execute them, they have to reclassify them as Islamic militants. That way they're not women. That's how they do things. That's the corruption. Okay? They reclassify stuff. And that's what we talk about when somebody reclassifies something. That's how communists operate. They just make it something else. They take an act of war by Islam against a state, meaning a man goes into a company and cuts off 2 women's heads, which did happen, by the way. So what do? Instead of the headline saying Islam declared war against America, they say a man attacks 2 women in a workplace incident. See, that headline looks a little better than Islam declared war.
Yeah, no one was arrested. No one been prosecuted on that case either.
Right. So, and no war crime will come up because it was a workplace incident. So nobody can charge Islam with a war crime for attacking civilians. You see how they do that? That's how they operate. And they've been doing this for I've been noticing it for the last 10 years. That they'll reclassify things and incidents and events. They reclassify them as something else. I thought that was interesting how they do that. It's pretty slick how they do it. In order to avoid any liability, they just change the wording. Once they change the wording, they change the classification, and it's over. Oh, they say, a migrant attacked a French citizen. No, that was Islam attacking France. That's what happened. Islam attacked England. Islam is attacking Germany. It's an ongoing world war. That's what's happening. Not a migrant attacked somebody or raped somebody. Not a migrant did that. What happened is Islam is what they're doing is committing acts of war crimes by attacking civilians.
That's correct.
They're too wussy to attack the military over there. They won't attack French military. They won't attack the English military, and they won't attack the German military. They go after civilians because they're wussy. They're wimps.
And they're right in the middle right now, World War III.
Mm-hmm.
It's between the political parties, really.
And the communists have been reclassifying that as workplace incidents, migrants attacked, women were raped. No, those were militants that have been attacking civilians. That's all that's happening. They're bombing civilians. But every time, if the U.S. ever bombs something, and there might be a perception of just the perception of civilians. Oh, they're war criminals. They suck, and all this other stuff. That's what happens.
And they're moving their army through immigration.
Mm-hmm.
All over the world.
Because they reclassified an invasion, military invasion, with immigration.
Yep.
And then showed nothing but women and children on television. So it makes it that we'll say, here, see the evidence? There's the evidence right there.
They put the women and kids up front, but they hide the young men, fighting age men.
The militants.
In the crowd, right.
Yeah, they hired the Islamic army in the crowd.
Yep. And they all wear hoodies or burqas or something to where you can't tell who they are or what they are.
Right. So, you see, that's how this works, folks. And these are the things you got to watch out for. You got to watch out for the reclassification of things. So when you see somebody going and attacking people with machetes, that's a Islamic army member of the Islamic army attacking civilians. That's what's happening. So just realize that. Those two, there was a couple over in California that did the same thing. The woman became a militant. She joined the Islamic army. She's no longer a woman, and now as long as she carries out attacks and things like that against civilians, then it's okay. but they don't want anybody to know. Oh, don't ever criticize Islam. What do you mean criticize? Just say it the way it is. It's not criticizing. You want to dishonor yourself by attacking civilians? Go ahead. You want to commit war crimes and dishonor yourself? What do I care? So the world don't respect you anymore? Who cares?
You're actually dishonoring yourself when you fail to speak the truth.
Yeah, and you're dishonoring your God.
That's right.
So I don't care what you're doing. That's between you and him and all that mess. So there you go, folks. This is what we see. There are many things that we do see great in this. We could be here for 2 hours talking about it, but I think we made our point. So we will speak to you next week. See you next week in the 155th broadcast of the T Rose Show. You have listened to the 154th broadcast, and we will see you next week.